Hi friends, in this tutorial series, we'll be implementing examples using Elasticsearch 8. In one of the previous tutorial, we had implemented HTTPS and authentication for Elasticsearch and Kibana. In this tutorial, we'll be further modifying that example such that Elasticsearch and Kibana, they make use of Azure Active Directory or Azure Entra ID for authentication. For this, I'll be taking reference of my website javanews.com. So go to Spring Boot Elasticsearch. The tutorial that we'll be implementing today is integrate Azure Active Directory OIDC in Elasticsearch and Kibana. So in this tutorial, we had configured the password for Elasticsearch and Kibana using this Elasticsearch reset password command, and we had then used these credentials to access both Elasticsearch and Kibana. In this tutorial, we'll be modifying this example such that the user he will make use of his Active Directory credentials to access Elasticsearch and Kibana. In a previous tutorial, we had configured Elasticsearch and Kibana with credentials and SSL. So you can go through this tutorial here. For this tutorial, we'll first be creating a new app registration in Azure Active Directory, which is now known as Entra ID. So once this app has been registered, then based on this registered app details in Elasticsearch, we'll be configuring the OpenID Connect configuration. During authentication, Kibana, it will fetch this OpenID Connect configuration and it will make the calls to registered app to generate the tokens. And based on these tokens, the user, he will be granted access to Kibana and Elasticsearch. Later, we'll be having a look at this flow in more detail. So let us begin with the implementation part. We'll first be setting up OpenID Connect with Azure. So for this, we'll need to create a new app registration. For this, go to the Azure portal and here go to app registrations. We'll be creating a new registration. The name will be Elastic. The redirect URI, select web, and here the URL will be HTTPS. We are running Kibana on localhost 5601. Click on register. So here the app registration it is created. After the application registration is complete, we'll be needing the application ID and the directory ID. So from here, first copy the application ID. And then also copy the directory or the tenant ID. Next, go to certificates and secrets in the left menu, and here we'll be creating a new client secret. So here in manage, go to certificates and secrets, and here we'll be creating a new client secret. I'll again name this as Elastic only. Add. So this secret value, it will be visible only once, so copy and keep it. Next, for the registered application, we'll be adding some permissions in the Microsoft Graph. So these permissions, they are email, OpenID, profile and user read. We select OpenID as we want the token that is going to be generated to follow the OpenID Connect standard. By selecting email, we are specifying that in the token that is generated, it will also have the user email ID. Similarly for profile, the basic profile, it will be added to the token. By selecting user.read, additional user profile details, it can be added to the token. So add these 4 permissions. In app registration, go to API permissions, add a permission, Microsoft Graph, and here we'll be selecting email, OpenID, profile. Select add permissions. We are done with the app registration. Now let us have a look at the flow that will be used once more. So the user, he attempts to access Kibana using the browser. The browser sends this request to Kibana. Kibana then fetches the OIDC configuration that will be configuring in Elasticsearch. And once it receives this configuration, it then redirects to login page of the registered app. The registered application will then present a Microsoft login page for which the user, he will need to enter the credentials of Azure. Once these credentials are entered, Microsoft Entra ID, it will validate the Azure credentials. And if the credentials are right, then it will return back the authorization code. Kibana then exchanges the authorization code for tokens from the registered app. Once it gets the token, then it can authenticate the user with the token, and also it can validate the user and permissions. Kibana then grants access to the user and displays the Kibana interface to the user using which the user can access Elasticsearch. Next, we'll be modifying the Elasticsearch configuration to add the Azure Active Directory OIDC configuration. So in previous tutorial, we had already implemented authentication and HTTPS for Elasticsearch. We'll be modifying that configuration file. So you go to Elasticsearch config. So we'll be configuring this elasticsearch.yml. Here we'll be adding this configuration. We'll go through this. So here expect.security.auth.realms.oidc, it defines the OIDC authentication realm. Order whose value is 2, it specifies the order of the authentication method. So we are enabling this OIDC. So enabled is true. Next we'll be configuring RPA, which stands for relying party. So relying party, it is a service that depends on third party for authentication purposes. So in our case, the relying party, it will be Elasticsearch or Kibana. RP.client ID value will be the application ID of the registered application. So previously we had copied this. RP.response code type, it will be code as we are making use of the authorization code flow for getting the token. The requested scopes, it will be OpenID and email. RP.redirect URI, it will be the same URI that we had configured when creating the app registration. This will be configuring the OP settings. So here OP, it stands for OpenID Connect Provider, which in our case is Microsoft Azure. So the first configuration is the op.issuer, which is Microsoft's token issuer URL. So here it will be login.microsoftonline.com, and here we have to specify the directory or the tenant ID of the registered application which we had copied previously. /v2.0. Next we have op.authorization endpoint. There we have to again specify the directory ID. This is the URL using which the users are authenticated. Next we have the op.token endpoint. Again we specify the directory ID. Using this token endpoint, the tokens they are exchanged. Next we have the user info endpoint using which the user information it is exchanged. In the end session endpoint, we again have to specify the directory ID. The end session endpoint, it is the logout URL. Next we have the JWK set path. Yeah, again specify the directory ID. This JWK set path, it is used for token validation. So we are done with the OIDC configuration. Next in the Elasticsearch Keystore, we'll be adding the OIDC client secret. So this is the client secret that we had created for the app registration. So for this, go to Elasticsearch, bin, start the command prompt here. We want Elasticsearch Keystore list. So this will list the existing properties in the Keystore. So here we'll be adding the property. We had copied this value here. So here this property, it has been added to the Elasticsearch Keystore. Let us now start the Elasticsearch instance. So here Elasticsearch, it has started successfully. You can see that the status is green. Next we'll be modifying the Kibana configuration to make use of the OIDC that we had configured in Elasticsearch. So this OIDC one, we'll be specifying it in Kibana so that Kibana, it makes use of this OIDC one for authentication. So copy this, go to Kibana config, and we'll be modifying this. Let us now start Kibana. So go to bin, start the command prompt here. So here Kibana, it has started successfully. If you now go to https localhost 5601 on which Kibana will be running, here now we get two logins, one login with Azure and login with Elasticsearch. So now just login with Elasticsearch first. So for this, the password was elastic, which we had configured in a previous tutorial. Here go to the dev tools. In the dev tools, we'll be running the following command to set up role mapping. So I'll explain what role mapping is. First, we'll just run this. Before running this role mapping, we'll be modifying it. So here in the username, we'll need to specify the email address of the Azure account. Now run this. So here the role mapping, it has been created. So using this role mapping, we are giving the super user role to the user who logs in using the Azure Active Directory OIDC 1 realm, and also the email ID, it should be matching to the one that we have specified here. So we are done with all the changes required for the Azure login. The only change remaining is that we are running Elasticsearch and Kibana with the basic license, and the basic license, it does not support integration with Azure OIDC. So for this, we'll need to upgrade the license. Here go to stack management. In stack management, go to license management. And yeah, I'll be starting the free trial here for 30 days and then trying out this tutorial. Start my trial. So we are finally done with all the changes. Click here on logout. So here we are back to the login screen, and here instead of logging in with the Elasticsearch credentials, we'll be logging in with the Azure credentials. So click on this login with Azure. Here I'll be entering my Azure portal email ID. Click on next. I'll enter the password here. Click yes. For security purpose, it will send a code to my email ID. There you can. So here using Azure credentials, we are finally able to log into Kibana. Hope you find this tutorial useful. Thank you.